So here's a relatively new but spectacular Cade Reef aquarium. The OptiClear Starfire glass is just amazing to see in real life. And so far the tank's progressing very beautifully. Corals are doing very well, fish are vibrant, but what I have advised is that when you look at the reef at the moment, it's very busy and there's a lot going on, and it does look extremely beautiful. But one thing that could improve the look of this aquarium is by doing a little bit more grouping. So at the moment there's lovely green, lovely green, lovely green, and having them spread out like that, it's fine and it looks great, but probably it doesn't look as structured or as bold as where you group similar corals together. So if we got that guy and we put this guy next to it and that guy say above it, that block of green is just so much stronger. And then the similar looking corals I like to group as well. So if we had the Cataphilias together in a similar area, if we had the Euphilias together in a similar area, and put a bit of shape to, all right, well, your Euphilia species are going up this way, and also grouping the corals also reduces how much the corals sting each other, because your similar species don't tend to sting each other as much. So you've got some leathers. If we group the leathers together, maybe the leathers in that section, maybe the green brains in that section, the acroporas here, the zoanthus maybe towards the bottom, the fluffies towards the bottom. What that's going to do is allow the corals to be closer together and allow you ultimately to have more corals, reduce the chance of the corals stinging each other, and it will create the blocking will just create a much more predominant or striking look. So there's quite a lot of zoanthus in this tank that could be grouped. So by no means does this have to happen, but I think that the unity of the blocks of similar species of coral just make the tank look a lot more thought out. And the other thing is that when you are in the wild, a lot of these corals are grouped. Like you swim over an area with quite a lot of cataphilia. It's not like there is necessarily one of each coral. There's sort of like a bed of this coral and an area of that coral. So grouping them together and making it look thought out doesn't necessarily make it look fake, because that is very much what you see when it's in the wild. So I mean, all in all, the tank looks spectacular, but I just think with a little bit of grouping, I think that that we could make it look even more striking. So the nutrient levels in the tank are quite good. The other thing that we'll really do is focus on what the magnesium level is, because the tank's now getting to the age where it should start getting good coralline algae, which is absolutely forming at this stage. And we're also going to start using Brightwell's coral colour, because I do get quite good feedback from coral colour, because I do think that once we have the nutrient levels low, which is the case, calcium and all that nice and high, if we start adding the trace elements that stimulate colour, then we might just get a little bit more colour out of the corals, because the coral itself actually doesn't have a colour. The coral is just reacting to the zooanthelle, which is the symbiotic algae that lives within the coral, and then determined by the light and the conditions and the trace elements and so forth that are in the water, the coral is able to change its colour to the pigment is able to work with the zooanthelle and actually totally change the colour of the coral. How often does this Moorish idol smack the corals like that?
I can't.
So just keep an eye on. Yeah. Normally Moorish idols are not that bad with coral, but he was just smacking the hell out of that coral there. So he may not be damaging it, but he would definitely keep it closed for a while.
Sorry, which one was he?
So he was smacking this one. If you watch the video, you'll see him just going poof, poof, poof. Right, okay. So if you just keep an eye on it, and if he's not damaging it, it's probably not a big drama. But if he does keep picking on that same piece and he does keep closing it up, then either just don't replace that piece of coral or just keep an eye on him. So he sees he's going back to it again.
Yeah.
See the way he's really hitting it?
Right.
So it looks like he's feeding on it. So he might end up knocking that coral.
Right.
And the problem is, if he knocks that one, then once that one's knocked, he might knock another one.
Right.
So just keep your eye on this fella. And for all you people listening, if you can put a note on the bottom about your experience with Moorish idols eating your coral. Eating / damaging it.